potential warning signs that we're now learning about. American pilots reportedly expressed concern about the Boeing 737 MAX 8 jet last year on at least 2 different occasions, saying that the plane tilted down. This is the Federal Aviation Administration is refusing to follow dozens of other countries this morning in grounding the aircraft. President Trump spoke with Boeing CEO Dennis Muilenburg yesterday, and the company is standing by the plane's safety. Joining me right now is Boyd Group International President Mike Boyd and Meslansky and Partners President Lee Carter. Great to see you both. Thanks so much for being here. Mike Boyd, first talk to us about this jet. The FAA says it's still safe, and it's saying you don't have to ground it. Then why are so many countries grounding it?
Because it's a minor thing. There's out of 22,000 airplanes flying in the world, there's only 300 of these, so it's not a big deal to go along with the crowd. In the United States, with the 3 airlines that operate MAX category airplanes, it's safe. I guarantee that. The problem is the 2 crashes we had, look at the operators. That's where the unsafety was. When you had Ethiopian Airlines basically have a student pilot as co-pilot, you got a major safety problem with that airline, not necessarily with the airplane.
Well, I mean, what about the issue that it tilts down? I mean, is there anything to say about that? Because I remember during the Lion Air crash, there was speculation that there was information that needed to be passed on to the pilots. They had made a change. There was a new jet. And they needed to tell the pilot instructions should the plane lock.
And that's been done already with U.S. carriers. We don't know if Ethiopian did it. We don't know if other carriers did it. But when you look at what's happened in the U.S., we have records for U.S. carriers.
Yeah.
They are safe. But places like Ethiopian, to have a student pilot as co-pilot, and that's what they had, that's outrageous. Lion Air, they got a track record that Al Capone wouldn't want to mess with in terms of safety. So let's not compare Southwest Airlines, which operates these, to these foreign carriers that may not be anywhere nearly as good.
All right, and yet the messaging is so important here. Lee Carter, how do you see this?
Look, I don't think that they've necessarily done a very good job in messaging. The way that they treated this one is exactly the same as the messaging they put out in Lion Air in November. If you compare the messages side by side, they're almost identical. And what I tell my clients is when crisis turns into tragedy, it's more important than in any other time to be more human. Because at this time, everybody's looking to you for direction. They want to hear that you understand the severity of it. You want to hear that people are afraid to fly. You want to hear about the safety and all of the actions that you're taking. They're very, very cautious right now. And what happens behind the scenes, right, is legal is really controlling the strings here and saying what we can and can't admit and what we do know and what we don't know. It's all about the facts at this point. But it really needs to be about reassuring people that they're going to be safe. It's about showing all of the actions. There's tons of actions that they're taking right now. Talk about them. Highlight them. Make sure that people are going to feel safe because this is a really big deal. I mean, look at what's happening to their stock price. Yeah. They could stop the bleeding if they were able to start convincing people that there was a better way.
You think the CEO or somebody from the company should be coming out, holding people's hands through this, explaining the situation, be more vocal?
Be much more vocal. Right now they're saying we have a bunch of engineers who are going to see what's happening on the ground. They have some internal memos that have gotten leaked, but they're not really reassuring us of what are all the steps that you're going to understand exactly what's happened. Why do you feel that it's safe? What are the things that you're doing to make sure that all of the planes that are out there are okay, that passengers are going to be safe as they fly? And I think that it's just not being done. They're very, very mechanical. If you look at their messaging right now, it lacks empathy. It lacks a humanity tone. It's very, very safe and close to the vest. And you can understand from a business perspective and a legal perspective why you would do that. Yeah. But for all of us watching, we need reassurance. As people are going to the airport right now, are they going to feel safe? As people are looking to invest in this company, do they think it's a good bet given that this is the severity of this and understanding this didn't just happen once, it happened twice. Yeah. So I think that they really have to do better.
Well, I think this is a really good point that you bring, but at the same time, being cautious is probably because they're open up to a ton of lawsuits at this point, right, Mike? And then there's this. An Ethiopian Airlines spokesperson told the Associated Press that the black box will be sent overseas. They didn't say which country that it's being sent to. What do you think investors want to know from this black box, and why not identify where this is being sent?
I don't know. I mean, like I said, if Ethiopian puts a student pilot as co-pilot, anything is possible there. And that's the difference between that and U.S. carriers. But getting back to the point here, Boeing can't come out and say some operators are safe and some aren't. They're selling airplanes. But the fact is, in the U.S., we have records to show that this airplane in operation at the 3 airlines that operate MAX versions is safe. And the message is covered by a din. I mean, it's a lynch mob out there, and everybody knows it's unsafe. People who wouldn't know an ATM from an airplane are telling us that, including politicians. So it's hard to get through that message when you have, you know, Mitt Romney saying it's unsafe, and he's not even qualified to make a comment on it.
That's a good point, Lee. Yeah.
Like, I mean, it is really hard to get through all the clutter. I mean, everybody right now is an expert in this 24-hour day, 7 days a week news cycle. But they have to have discipline about it. They have to be getting out there. If you go to Google, what is Boeing saying? It's hard to find, you know, outside of the leak memo, a short official statement. They're not out in front of it, and they need to be. And we say, you know, if you're not nauseous from repeating your message, you're probably not even beginning to get traction. They need to be controlling the narrative as best as they can, because you're absolutely right. It is a linchpin out there. You're looking at what everybody's saying. Everybody's, you know, it's easy to pile on this one. Everybody's calling for, you know, all kinds of let's ground the planes. We don't know. People are afraid, but the reason they're afraid is because they're not hearing from the source that they shouldn't be afraid.
If this stock keeps going down, I'm sure he will come out and try to stop the bleeding. Mike, good to see you. Lee, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Mike Boyd, Lee Carter there.